breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Adam Rosenberg. He does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Coupled with that, I know that he is doing an absolutely superb job as well of taking a look at things on the Dad's Bet Baseball podcast and so much more. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and we're going to be talking about the props that he has been taking a look at recently, why he's taking a look at a lot more team props rather than individual player props as well. We'll be talking a little bit about the Philadelphia Phillies, and then we're going to be breaking down the games that we've got here on this Tuesday in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters here on the name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds in any way that they want. All gambling transactions, they get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize the promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That is going to get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. And let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Milwaukee Brewers absolutely lambasted the LA Dodgers, this by a count of 9-1. And by the way, the LA Dodgers do remain your top team to the over in all of baseball this season, as they have been absolutely remarkable in that regard. 51 overs, 39 unders, and 2 pushes. Now, Blue Jays are 50 overs, 38 unders, and 3 pushes, so they're pretty much neck and neck. So, actually, the Blue Jays, I think by percentage points, are a little bit better, but still, 2 very good over teams. We'll get to the Blue Jays in a second, but for the Dodgers, Yoshinobu Yamamoto did not have it. 2/3 of an inning, he lost 5 runs, 3 of which were earned. This poor Dodgers bullpen just continues to get used and abused. Jack Dreyer, 2 1/3 innings, scoreless. Lou Trevino, Anthony Banda, both on his scoreless inning. Will Klein gives up 2 runs in his inning work, and Julian Fernandez, he comes in for 2 innings. He gives up 2 runs as the Brewers had a pair of bombs off of Yamamoto. You had Andrew Vaughn of the White Sox get his 6th home run of the campaign, and Christian Yelich his 18th home run season, and Freddie Peralta was great. 6 scoreless innings out of him. Aaron Ashby gives up a run in 2 innings, and then you were able to get a scoreless inning as well out of Easton McGee, and also being able to get the job done for an over was the Blue Jays. They get the win against the White Sox by a count of 8-4, and for the Blue Jays, Jose Barrios, very good start. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. From there, Robinson Pina does give up 3 runs, only 1 of which was earned, though. And from there, Nick Sandlin, 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Chad Green, a scoreless inning as Edson Barger and an error out there in the field. But he also had a home run off of Schaumburg, 12th home run of the campaign. Burke also gives one up to Nathaniel Lukes, his 5th home run season. And Joey Luperfido gets his 1st home run of the campaign, all off of Burke, who gave up 6 runs of 5 innings, including 3 bombs. And from there, you had a trio of scoreless innings from Tyler Alexander and Brandon Eisert. He was able to come in, and he gave you an inning, giving up a run along the way. You had the Cleveland Guardians get the job done against the Houston Astros by a count of 7-5. It has been a rock-solid year for the Astros, but Colton Gordon got roughed up. 5 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, and he gives up a home run to Mr. Jose Ramirez, his 15th home run of the season, and Caleb Ort gives one up to David Fry, his 3rd home run of the campaign. Ort gives up that home run in his inning work. Steven Okert, 1 1/3 innings, allows a run. Hector Neris, a scoreless inning, and trio bombs here for the Houston Astros, as it was home run number 19 of the season for Isaac Paredes, home run number 1 for Taylor Trammell, the well-traveled Taylor Trammell, and then Victor Caratini, 9th home run of the campaign that comes off of Matthew Festa, who gives up a home run in 1 1/3 innings. Tanner Bybee gives up the other 2 bombs, 4 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings, but Paul Sewald, Hunter Gaddis, Emmanuel Clase, they all come in and they're able to provide a scoreless inning, and the Angels, they provide a 6-5 walk-off win over the Rangers. For Jacob deGrom, he gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. First time they allowed more than 2 earned runs in a start ever since April 11th, as he does give up a home run along the way, going deep for the LA Angels. Travis d'Arnaud, his 5th home run of the campaign, and for the Angels, Yusei Kikuchi, I say he had a rough start. 4 runs allowed to give it up in 5 innings, a home run to Corey Seager, who's all of a sudden starting to heat up. 12th home run of the campaign. From there for Texas, Sean Armstrong gives up 2 runs. It is inning of work. Jacob Webb, a scoreless inning. Chris Martin, 1 1/3 innings. Hobie Milner tried to strand an inherited runner on base, but he walked in the winning run, and for the LA Angels, bullpen was able to hold up as you had Reed Detmers give you a scoreless inning along with Victor Medeiros. You had a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless from Sam Bachman. Actually did give up a run, Mr. Bachman did, but Brockenrollberg, he gives you an out of the bullpen, and Kenley Jansen, a scoreless inning to be able to get the save. The Giants get the job done against the Philadelphia Phillies 3-1 as Christopher Sanchez gives up 1 run in 7 innings, but Ryan Kerkering, who's been the best relief piece for the Philadelphia Phillies, 2 runs allowed in a third of an inning. Max Laser gets a pair of outside the bullpen, and not a lot doing off of Landon Roop, who gives up 1 run in 5 innings. Ryan Walker, Joey Lucchesi, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duvall, they're all able to end in scoreless innings. The Kansas City Royals have been one of your best under teams in all of baseball. Now, the best under team is the Rangers, who did play an over on Monday. They're up to, the Rangers are 33 overs, 57 unders, and a push, but the Royals, 36 overs, 55 unders, and a push. They get the job done against the Pirates by a count of 9-3. Andrew Heaney, not long for this game. 4 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings, and he does give up a bomb in this one to Mr. Vinny Pasquantino, 15th home run season. Then Genesis Cabrera gives one up to Nick Lofton, 2nd home run season. Chase Shogert gives up a pair of bombs. Salvador Perez, 11th home run season. Bobby Witt Jr. is 13th. Shogert, 4 runs allowed in 2 2/3 innings, including those 2 home runs. Genesis Cabrera gives up a solo home run in his 2 innings of work. And then David Bednar, not out of the bullpen scoreless. And then Noah Cameron does give up a home run to Tommy Pham, 3rd home run of the campaign. 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings for Cameron. He has now allowed 2 runs or fewer in 9 out of his 11 starts. Steven Cruz, a scoreless inning, and Jonathan Bolin, he gives up a run in his inning of work. And for the Miami Marlins, they stay hot. They've been able to win, I believe, now 8 out of their last 11 games, 5-1. They take down the Cincinnati Reds. As for the Fish, they were able to get 10 hits in support of Jansen Junk, who was not living up to his name. 1 unearned run given up in 6 innings. Blake Picard, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Anthony Bender gets a final out of the game to be able to get the save. And Augustin Ramirez, 14th home run season, that comes out for Brent Suter. Suter in relief gives up a solo home run in his 2 innings of work. Lyon Richardson, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in his inning of work. Brady Singer, not a bad start. Didn't last long though, 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. And then Taylor Rogers was able to score a scoreless inning as well. The Tampa Bay Rays and the Detroit Tigers played one of the quickest games of the year. 5-1, the Tigers get the job done as the Shane Baz, gives up 3 runs in 6 innings, including a home run to Javi Baez, 10th home run season. Then you had a pair of home runs given up by the bullpen as Cole Keith, his 7th home run season. Zach McKinstry, his 7th, as well as Paul Gervasi. He gives up both of those home runs. He gives up 2 solo runs in his 2 innings of work. And for Detroit, Kadir Montero, he was terrific. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Tyler Holden, Brandon Hennefy, Wilves, they're all able to lend you a scoreless inning. And the Colorado Rockies stay losing. Now, 70 losses for the Rockies, 9-3. They lose to the Boston Red Sox as Austin Gomber does get Gombered up. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings, including a home run to one Mr. Roman Anthony, 2nd home run season. Then you had Ryan Rolson give up a home run to Rami Gonzalez, 4th home run season, and Ceddanne Rafael, his 12th home run of the campaign. Rolson gives up those 2 home runs and 1 1/3 innings of work. Jimmy Herget, a scoreless inning of the bullpen. Tyler Kinley, 2 runs allowed in his inning of work. And for Boston, Richard Fitz, longest start since April. 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 5 2/3 innings. From there, you had Brandon Bernardino, Ore Alcala, Chris Murphy, all on a scoreless inning, and Garrett Whitlock, and out of the bullpen scoreless. And then the Arizona Diamondbacks wrap up the night by taking down the San Diego Padres. This by a count of 6-3 as for the Sakes, Zach Gallen was able to fill it up with a pretty nice start. He goes 6 innings. He allows 1 unearned run as he was hurt by a pair of Geraldo Perdomo errors. Kyle Backus from there does give up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, including a home run to Manny Machado, 15th home run of the campaign. And the season debut for Yu Darvish did yield 5 strikeouts, but they went 3 2/3 innings, walked 3, gave up 2 runs. Yuki Matsui from there gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Wandy Peralta, 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings. And Brian Hoying was able to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, as was Edward Neil Nunez. As for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they did a solid job of being able to hit with men in scoring position, and they were able to get this one in to go to 45-46. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, has been a very underwhelming season, but the overs are starting to take a little bit more shape. 47 overs to 48 unders, so about a 50-50 split over the last 7 days. In the last 7 days, favorites are hitting at about 56.5 to 57% on the money line, 53-41. Meanwhile, if you look at the season to date, the under rate is right around about 52.7%, 690 unders to 621 overs. Meanwhile, favorites on the money line hitting at just a hair below 58%, 779 and 570, so 57.8%. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we all got on Monday. Now let's talk with one of our good friends, Adam Rosenberg, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast Family Podcast.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Adam Rosenberg aboard. I know that he's doing a tremendous job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's doing a little bit of work over there with Rhythm. I know that he does the Dad's Bet Baseball Podcast. He's a little bit of everywhere. He does so also well, and he's got one of the best Twitter/X handles that you're going to find. Hey, Rosenberg, all together. And Adam, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, it is always awesome to be on your show. For once, we don't have any breaking news or a game going on where Jesus Luzardo is giving up 12 runs. I feel like that happens every time you and I record.
Yeah, Jesus Luzardo, it's been a little bit rough for him. And how about if we do talk about the Philadelphia Phillies? Because I know you've got some takes on what they should do at the trade deadline. And take me through how you're just evaluating this team, just some of the good, bad, and indifferent with them, and how you do think that they should be handling things moving forward.
So this team is good, but I think that this team has a pretty large gap lineup-wise between them and the Dodgers, if you put them side by side. And they live and die by the long ball, and, you know, this is a controversial take, but I think that arguably the best pitcher on their team right now that's not named Zach Wheeler is Ranger Suarez, and I think they should trade him at the trade deadline. Like this team just looks like they're destined to be very good and get into the playoffs and didn't do exactly what they've done in the last couple of years where the bats disappear in October because you are in a smaller sample size. It is a lot easier to shut down home run hitters. Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about that, but we know that Dombrowski's going to make some big moves. So, I just don't know if there'll be the big one that I think that they should make.
And it's going to be really interesting with them because what I've been noticing about the Philadelphia Phillies all season long is that the hitting has been solid, but they don't necessarily have a lot of power hitting right now. And I think that that's what's really been hurting them. I'm not sure you take a look at this team, but I think that's the one thing that they really need, that big power hitter.
Harper's power has kind of been sapped by having the wrist injury. Kyle Schwarber obviously is always a threat wherever you put him in the lineup. Trey Turner, by the way, had quietly one of the best first halves of the seasons, on pace for over 200 hits, and didn't get an all-star nod. But this team still doesn't really have any power from the right side of the plate. Certainly Castellanos is just sort of an enigma himself. I don't know. I just think that there's a gap between this team and the teams that I think can win a World Series, of which I really think that there are only 3 teams that I think can do that. I think the Phillies are up there, but I would rather see the Phillies make some moves that get them continuing to move in the right direction this year while this is the short window, but also this is an aging team and I want to see them keep it younger for the next couple years. So we'll see. It's a seller's market, and the reality is that players that get traded usually are players that are not wanted by those teams. In terms of power bats on the lineup, I'd love to see them try to trade for Tyler O'Neill on the Orioles. I think that he has a player opt-in after this year, so it's really a 1-year deal, and obviously the Orioles are out of it and they could get a pretty decent amount for it, but we'll see. I don't know if the Phillies could put together enough of a deal to get that done.
Yep, I've heard some rumors of Joe Adell as well, but the Angels are all of a sudden 500. 500 keeps you alive out there in the American League, so that'll be interesting as well. As Adam Rosenberg does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And with regards to Phillies, how about if we stay with them? Because a team has been really struggling out there in the National League is the San Francisco Giants. Got things righted in that series against the Athletics, but that is a team that the Phillies are going to be playing on Tuesday. Taijuan Walker versus Robbie Ray with like a minus 150, minus 155 money line and a total of 7.5. How do you take a look at this sort of game for the Phillies? And Taijuan Walker now getting starts for the team once again.
Yeah, they ran out of guys. This is also sort of a spot before the All-Star break. I didn't even realize till you told me the line that Ray is only a 150 favorite at home, where he's been a lot better against Taijuan Walker. So the way that I'm actually playing the series, the way I'm playing it tonight, this is actually it's a bad travel spot for the Phillies because they just flew all the way to the West Coast. And it's a local-ish travel spot for the Giants. They went from Sacramento back home. Giants offense has completely disappeared, and the Phillies don't really hit on the road. I'm doing a lot of the race to whatever run market and doing neither. And I got some great plus money on that. I did race to 5, neither at plus 110. Obviously, everyone expects the world out of Taijuan Walker, but I don't think that this Giants team really can hit that well. It's also a balmy 60 degrees in San Francisco right now. And as a former Bay Area resident, I can tell you that this is one of the worst weather months that they have in that area. So I'll probably be just taking some unders, no matter how bad Taijuan Walker is. And this race to runs market is a real good one to find some plus money.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that as well, because I do think that it's a very intriguing market, especially with that of just so many teams have been struggling on offense this year. Like, I look at the Kansas City Royals and how bad they've been, the Pittsburgh Pirates and how bad they've been. And, well, that's a series that we've got going on right now. And that, I think that if you take the race to 5, I don't know if either team gets a 5 the entirety of the series. And I think that those teams, thrown there the Texas Rangers, are very intriguing to what you're talking about.
It's a really great way when you see a total that is 7.5 or 8, taking the race to that's juiced, taking the race to whatever and neither team to do it. How many times did these games end 4-2 or 5-1 and you took the race to 6, and it's a nice plus money way of playing the same angle? Obviously, there's always inherent risk with bullpens and things like that, but the whole name of the game on any sort of baseball betting, because it's a volume over time sport, is find plus money angles where you can lower your stake. I think that you pointed it out on Twitter X today that you got to bet things based on the money line because that's where you're getting value, and oftentimes it's not about your record. It's about the units up, and that is something where you can control stake when you're able to look for a plus money way to play an otherwise juiced angle.
Yep, I did mention that on the old Twitter /X. Someone was saying, hey, you're barely hitting above 50%. How are you able to make money with the VIG? It's like, well, if you're taking plus prices, you're not paying any VIG. So I think that that's something that is so big for taking a look at baseball, because this isn't a spread sport like football. This isn't a spread sport like basketball, what have you. You're pretty much betting a lot of money lines in terms of props. You could be hitting at 57%, but if you're laying minus 175, 57%, not so good. If you're hitting at 50% on plus prices, you're doing really good. So well said there. And I know you just mentioned the fact that you're playing a lot of these like race of 5, race of 6, what have you sort of markets. What are some of the other props that you've been taking a look at over the last few weeks that have been serving well to you?
So you mentioned how none of the teams are hitting really well offensively. I've been paying a lot, rather than bet the home runs, which I've stopped betting. I love our guy, Colby Marchio, and he's going to be on my podcast this week talking. Yes. We're going to do the home run derby, but I've moved from total bases to extra base hits market. And what I'm doing is I'm finding players. I have my site Handygraphs where I'm finding players that have an ISO above 200 being around the league median. And I'm finding if you have a lineup that has 4 more guys, and then you're going against a pitcher who has an opposing ISO that's well in the upper 2s and sometimes 3s, a great one with the Red Sox, you can get really good plus money. You get the counting of the team home run, but you're just basically cheering for doubles and extra base hits. Cashed a couple of those yesterday. These are often between plus 105 and plus 135. A real unique way to play the team offense in the same kind of cap versus trying to throw a dart at an individual player. I've just moved away from just a lot of the individual batter players and tried to collectively continue to use a team total prop in this sense to continue to build bankroll as we move forward in the rest of the season.
Absolutely. And then I know that there was another market that you were taking a look at as well, which I find to be very intriguing. That is the double plays market. Has that been one that you've been continuing to do? And how's that been working out?
The DPs are hot. That's the bet of the summer, Greg. I'm not sure if you heard, but that is the bet of the summer. These things are incredible because they don't know how to price them. It is one of those plays where you got to find a pitcher that can let up just enough base runners and a team that has just good enough ground ball rate, and the pitcher has to have a good ground ball rate. This is a defensive prop. So it's really always live for most of the game. It's an electric sweat, as I like to tell everyone. Christopher Sanchez is a guy who's tonight, generally, I think he's a great target. You start to find pitchers that are good for this. He's a great target. The problem is, I genuinely think, based on how the Giants are against lefties, that he may strike out 1 billion batters, which would obviously be a record for a game. So I just don't even see many base runners because of this. There's other guys that I'm looking at. Cincinnati Reds have been hitting into a bunch of them. Jansen Junk actually has a surprisingly good ground ball rate. And the Marlins have a solid infield when it comes to turning double plays. You want to find teams that can turn double plays because they have a solid infield. Tampa Bay, excellent at this. The Angels have been very good at this. The Athletics, excellent at this as well. So looking for those teams, and you want to make sure that it's not teams that are too fast on the base paths. The Cubs don't really get into a lot of double plays because generally they're stealing second base and ruining the double play situation. The Astros, pretty slow at the top of the lineup with Altuve there. They're constantly in a double play situation because he gets on base and then he usually ends up with that force out double play. But the DP market, excellent, not going anywhere. Keep betting it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Absolutely. And I do think that it is fun to be taking a look at some of these markets where sometimes there aren't a lot of people that are on it. And those are the bets that you want to make, because before Yerfy Nerfy was super duper popular, there was a lot of good value there as well. And that has since dried up very much, as we do have one of our good friends, Adam Rosenberg, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I know you were talking about going away from more individual props and looking a little bit more at team props. Are there a few other looks that you've been taking a look at, slash have there been other bets that maybe you were doing in past years that you're not doing as much of anymore?
I mean, the biggest one for me that's just a surprising gap is that, I haven't bet as many home runs as I did before. Again, we also are just getting really into hitting weather. It was colder for a little bit longer this year. I'm still playing some K props, but I'm moving away, starting now, moving away from outs as it gets to hitter season. I haven't played as many stolen base props this year. I think last year there was a giant jump with the rule changes. I haven't really seen that as much when I'm watching the gameplay this year. The Pirates opening weekend ran all over the Marlins and had 13 of them. Then, in the last couple months, the guy who everyone used to run on, Edward Cabrera, he's kind of fixed that. And so that's probably the biggest market that I haven't been hitting as much as I did in years past, just simply because teams' base running is either sloppy or they're just not getting on base, or just these things just aren't happening like they used to.
Yeah, but I think that is such an interesting look as well, because we have been noticing that with regards to stolen bases, it feels like there are some teams out there like the Milwaukee Brewers, for example, that have a ton of them. And then as much as I love the Detroit Tigers, they really don't have any whatsoever. And I feel like it's been a big giant divide between some of these teams with regards to have and the have-nots. And I think it's more or less targeting some of these teams rather than targeting the players themselves.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Like last year, the Angels were a super run first team. They've sort of quieted on that. Royals were at the beginning of the season, and now they just can't get on base enough to even start that up. So it's interesting because you would think a team with a high on base percentage like the Detroit Tigers, you'd think that they'd be great for stealing, and they don't. They just play small ball the entire time.
Yeah, it really has been interesting to be able to dive in on that market, and we should be seeing a lot of just intrigue this summertime moving forward. And do want to ask you, is there maybe a team or two that you've been taking a look at this year, and maybe you're starting to feel either a little bit more bullish or a little bit more bearish on them, and they're a team that you might be looking to target and bet on towards the summer months?
Yes, I'm still holding out my hope that something's going to turn big time on this Reds team, to be honest. Hunter Green's expected to come back. I think that there's a Chase Burns smash spot coming up here from the K front this week. He gets the Rockies at home. I believe that game is Thursday or Friday, but that's going to be a fantastic spot for him. And that team is kind of middled around, and I think that their number to make the playoffs is too long. They're still on pace to be in the 80-ish wins. They still have a great lineup. They still have a ballpark that is made for hitting that they haven't even hit in yet. And again, when they get Hunter Green back, I think it's going to kick that team into overdrive. So the Reds are absolutely a team I think has a lot of value. And then a team that I'm just constantly fading, and I'm very much enjoying this. I love fading this Giants team, because this Giants team was a darling when they got Rafi Devers, and it didn't change the team at all. And they've been terrible since he got there. I think that creates a pretty big hole in the lineup with the guy that has such a high variance of swing of either it's out or he's striking out. And so that is a team that is pretty popular that I've really much enjoyed fading, because you're constantly getting pretty good prices on it.
Yeah, with the San Francisco Giants, they were white hot towards the beginning part of the season, but to your point, it has gone a little bit sideways on them. So we'll see if they're going to be able to pick it up moving forward. And then is there anything else that you might be taking a look at for Tuesday that is catching your attention, whether that's on the player prop market or whether that be a team or two?
On Tuesday, Kyle Friedland. So that's something I'm going to look at. I'm looking at Logan Gilbert against the Yankees. That's a really good K-prop spot. This Yankees team is just a turnstile. I'm also seeing that we got tomorrow, we're going to have Hunter Brown against Cleveland. That's another turnstile type of thing. Probably the most interesting matchup I'm seeing, the Tigers with Jack Flaherty against the Rays, who the Rays are going to be starting Ryan Pepio. Flaherty's looked real bad over the last month, and I've been kind of convinced over the last year that he's been... Well, we know that he had some sort of injury where he needed an injection. He just hasn't looked good over the last month. Every single time he hits his wall, the third time through the order, this Rays team sort of kills you by many different hits. They're not really a bomb team, but what they do is they'll just constantly get on base, and they're one of those teams that is very smart on fundamentals. It's the type of team that's going to sort of kill a Jack Flaherty. So I'm really looking at that tomorrow as a Flaherty fade.
Yeah, Captain Jack Flaherty has been captain of the giving up a whole bunch of runs team. He has not been great to say the least, so I'm glad that you point that out. And Adam, I know that you're doing absolutely amazing work taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can find me at Hey Rosenberg, as you mentioned, hosting the Dad's Bet Baseball podcast a couple times a week, and on SGPN's MLB podcast 3 times a week at 10 a.m. doing props. Probably the biggest thing is my site, handygraphs.com, where you can find a good visualization of all different types of baseball betting data, all different stats that you can use for betting. We all have it in one nice dashboard, real easy way, so you don't have to go to 3 different sites. And also we got 30, 60, 90 plate appearance splits, which are a lot of fun to look at versus a hand.
Absolutely, and Adam is doing such an incredible job taking a look at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So a big thanks, Adam, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I'll give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Great to be joined by Adam Rosenberg today, doing great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, doing an amazing job over at the Dad's Bet Baseball Podcast, and so much more. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So a big thanks, Adam, for joining me in the last segment. And now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we get things started with 951, 952 on the betting board? It is the Miami Marlins, and they're on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. It's on to Nick Martinez getting the start for them, and Yuri Perez is on the bump for Miami. Miami does find themselves anywhere between even money to plus 110, between minus 118 to minus 120. That number on Cincinnati, total on this game is 9. The over and the under both at minus 110, and I mean by total 9.1. Looking at the over for Yuri Perez, coming off of a really nice last start where he was able to go 6 innings. That is the only of his 5 starts, though, in which he's been able to fill at least 5 innings. So that's a little bit of an issue, and he's backed up by a bullpen that ranks 21st in the big leagues in terms of ERA. And for Perez, it's just all about the command. For Yuri Perez right now, 4.50 ERA, feeling dependent more on that neighborhood of 3.27, but the 4.5 walks per 9 innings get jacked up, and that causes them to come out of games very early. So that has been really the derailer for him, and I do think that that's going to be an issue moving forward, especially with a bullpen that, well, you do have Ronnie Enriquez, who's able to give you a sub 3.50 ERA. Anthony Bender has been able to do a solid job. You do have these mix and match guys like a Tyler Phillips, Calvin Fauché, posting up north of 4 ERA, and it is a Miami Marlins team that, by the way, is actually averaging north of 4.8 runs per game away from home. It is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in Miami. When they hit the road, this team has been a little bit more formidable. Now, not a lot of home run power. You've right now got 3 guys on the roster that give you north of 7 home runs. Otto Lopez is at 9 bombs, and then Augustin Ramirez, 13 home runs. Kyle Stowers, 16 home runs. And Stowers, about a 352 on base. Xavier Edwards is moving line, though, hitting for about a 355 on base. Eric Wagaman, Jesus Sanchez, a lot of guys hitting in that neighborhood about a 245 to a 255, and Liam Hicks has been able to give you about a 367 on base as well. So I think these guys have been pretty rock solid, but also have a Cincinnati Reds team that's in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Strangely, they're actually averaging fewer runs per game at home rather than away from home, despite the fact that they call it Great American Small Park. But I mean, much of that is because this is another one of those station-to-station teams that isn't necessarily generating a lot of power. Ellie De La Cruz, 18 home runs. He has been amazing, 350 on base. And then you got Spencer Steer with 10 home runs, and those are the lone 2 guys. They're going to give you a double-figure amount of bombs. Steer has really gotten hot recently, now hitting above a 250 after a miserable start to the season. Gavin Lux, TJ Friedel, both between about a 360 to a 370 on base. Need to get a little bit more towards the bottom of the fold. Jake Fraley being on the injured list really doesn't hurt this team in my opinion, but Tyler Stevenson sitting at 235. Same with Will Benson. These mix and match young guys have just not been able to come through, as it's been a tough year for Christian Encarnacion Strand, but now you get Austin Hayes off the injured list, 8 bombs and 155 at-bats, hitting at 280, so I do think that for the Reds, they do a nice job of getting to Perez, and for Nick Martinez, he does a good job of being able to keep things out in front of him. He is giving up only about 1.9 walks per 9 innings. Overall, his ERA is a 4.20 with about 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but the ERA falls to a 3.42 when he is at home. I do think that he does a good job getting the job done here. Did something I told 9.1. I like that over, and I do like the Reds up to a minus 142 on that money line. 953, 954 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, is on the bump for the Brewers, and Clayton Kershaw goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers are between minus 108 to minus 115 favorites. Even money to minus 105 is that number on the crew. 8 is the total. The over is minus 120. The under is even. Give me the Miz. I set Jacob Mizorowski and the Brewers at a minus 111. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. For Mizorowski, this guy got lit up in his last start. I fully recognize that, but his swing and miss stuff is great. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Needs to hone it in with the walks. This was a problem even when he was at AAA Nashville. 4.6 walks per 9 innings. So in his 4 starts, he's been going 19.2 innings, so he's probably going to give you about 5 or so innings, and then you do pass it off to a bullpen that's been shaky. Bottom half of the big leagues in terms of their ERA, but for the Brewers, it does feel like this bullpen is getting much better. They had Yopai himself as Piguera at the beginning part of the season that they were relying upon. Not so much anymore, and you take a look at Aaron Ashby ever since he's come off the injury list, and he has been supreme for the team. He's able to give you multiple innings, right now posting up a sub-1 ERA, and then you throw in there Nick Mears, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, Grant Anderson, all give you a sub-295 ERA. That helps you out quite a bit. And then on the flip side, you do have an LA Dodgers team that is in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and they've just utilized so many of these arms over the last few weeks. It's not even funny what they've been having to do there. You have been able to have Lou Trevino, Alex Vesia be able to supply a sub-325 ERA along with the long guy in Jack Dreher, and Clayton Kershaw might need it at this point in his career. Looked very ineffective in his start against the Chicago White Sox. The whiff rate is just no longer there anymore for Clayton Kershaw. For Clayton Kershaw, he is getting fewer than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. As a matter of fact, 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, about 1.2 bombs allowed per 9 innings, 3.43 ERA, fielding dependent, relatively in line with that, as he's only giving about 2.8 walks per 9 innings, but clearly not the same man that he once was. Now, this is a Dodgers lineup that is the Death Star out there in big leagues. They are number 1 in the big leagues in terms of their overall run production. Shohei Ohtani, 380 on base, 30 home runs. Andy Paz is up to 17 bombs. He's sitting at 290. Now, you do have Max Muncy currently on the injured list, and you've had a season to forget for Michael Conforto, but you know what, Teoscar Hernandez, north of 50 RBI, he's giving you 14 home runs. Will Smith getting jiggy with it, north of 400 base, and they're doing this with Mookie Betts not even having a great year. About a 325 on base. For Mookie Betts standards, he's been a little bit down, and then confounding for the Brewers, averaging north of 5.4 runs per game away from home, about 3.9 runs per game at home. American Family Field is not some sort of like a haven for pitchers. It's not a bad pitcher's ballpark, but it's not an amazing pitcher's ballpark either. You've got 2 guys for the Brewers, give you north of 12 home runs. Jackson Trio's up to 15 bombs. Christian Yelich is 17, and Rhys Hoskins, 12 home runs. Just a lot of guys for the Milwaukee Brewers are finding a way to move the line and get on base, as you've got all these guys hitting between about a 335 to a 365 on base. Isaac Collins is your main guy at a 366. Everyone else is between about a 355 to a 350. Bryce Rang, William Contreras, Sal Frelick, Hoskins, Caleb Durbin, Christian Yelich, all these guys are sort of there, and you've been able to get a lot of stolen bases out of Trio, Yelich, Frelick, along with Terang. All these guys at least 13 stolen bases, so it's really been small ball for the Milwaukee Brewers. I do think that they find a way to Clayton Kershaw and get the job done. I said my sold it at 8.2, so at the 8 I like the over, and I do like the Brewers up to a minus 110 on that money line. 955, 956 on the card. The Washington Nationals are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for the Cardinals. Jake Irvin goes for Washington. Washington is a plus 1 150 to a plus 155 underdog, and between minus 170 to minus 182. That number on St. Louis. Total on this game is 9, unders minus 120, and the over is even. And new regime out there for the Washington Nationals after they canned their manager. But for the Cardinals, I set them on the money line at a minus 162. Right now, you're seeing the initial FanDuel opener with regards to run line being with the Cardinals a very small plus money, shall we say, team on the run line at a plus 112. I'd be needing closer to about a plus 122, so it's a little bit of a wait and see situation there. The Nationals go to a plus 162. I'd be willing to take a shot there, so we're going to need to inch up a few pennies. And I did think that once all said and done, I might land on the Washington Nationals, as Jake Irvin has been far from amazing thus far this season. His whiff rate is very much down. He's only getting 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's allowing 1.7 bombs per 9 innings, but he's also facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals team that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. With the St. Louis Cardinals unit, you really just don't have that one guy that's been able to give you a ton of power, as you've got Alec Burleson, Lars Nootbaar, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Arenado, all between 10 and 11 home runs thus far this season, and for the most part, these guys are doing an okay job of moving the line. Mason Wynn is giving you about a 255 average, Contreras at 340 on base, Nolan Arenado is sort of falling down the toilet bowl, 304 on base, you need a bit more there, but Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, both of these guys hitting north of 285. The Ivan Herrera injury has hurt this team at the catcher spot, so Pedro Paz, who's giving you 261 on base, is seeing some innings, but this is also a Cardinals bullpen that is looking a little bit better right now. You've had Ryan Helsley have his blown save situations go a little bit awry, but you know what? You've got Phil Matone, a long guy in Steven Matz, Jojo Romero. These guys give you a sub 3.5 ERA, so they've been able to do a nice job of mixing and matching there. Flip side for the Washington Nationals, just an absolutely atrocious bullpen. Dead last in the National League in terms of bullpen ERAs. You've had the closer in Kyle Finnegan be able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA, and Brad Lord has been pretty solid in the bullpen as well. He and Andrew Chafin, a sub 3.75 ERA, but then you get into likes of Jackson Rutledge, Zach Brzezinski, Eduardo Salazar, so many guys. They're posting up north of 5 ERA. Ryan Lotus has been terrible, and for the Washington Nationals, they're averaging about 3.8 runs per game at home, a full run per game more away from home. James Wood is giving you good wood, 391 on base, 23 home runs. Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Bell, along with CJ Abrams, all between 11 and 13 home runs. And just strangely, these guys are hitting the bombs on the road. Like CJ Abrams has 10 home runs when he's away from home. Josh Bell has 9 home runs away from home. Both of these guys have 2 home runs at home. So they're really supplying the boom when they've been on the road. You've been able to have Keibert Ruiz move the line for the team as well. And Andre 3000 Palante is not going to be some sort of strikeout artist himself. For Palante, he's been getting in that neighborhood about 7 or so strikeouts per 9 innings. It's been quite a bit rough for him in terms of being able to keep the ball in the yard this season as well. Last year he gave up 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. This year up to about 1.1 bombs for 9 innings. 442 fielding dependent. He's giving up about 3 walks per 9 innings. To his credit, he's given up 2 runs or fewer in now 4 out of his last 5 starts. But I do think that this is a circumstance where the Nationals are going to get to him a little bit more here. I did set my total at an 8.9. I do think that the 9 goes just a skoge a bit too far. I'm going to be looking at that 9 under. And right now, if I'm able to get the Nationals at a plus 162 or higher, right now the best price I'm seeing is a plus 156. But what's all said and done, if we can get up to that plus number, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Nationals on the money line. 957, 958 on the card. The San Diego Padres play OCers and the Diamondbacks. Merrill Kelly goes for the 6. Nick Pivetta is on the bump for the Padres. Padres are between minus 114 to minus 121 favorites. Even money to plus 110 is that number on Arizona. 8 is the total. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. And I'm siding with the San Diego Padres. I set them at minus 132 on the money line. For Merrill Kelly, he's got some very demonstrative home and road splits throughout his career, and he's been good this year. 3.55 ERA. His strikeout stuff is up. 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only allowing about 1 home run per 9 innings. We'll say he's coming in a little bit of a rough patch. 3+ runs allowed in each of his last 4 starts, albeit 1 or 2 of those runs were unearned along the way. But for Merrill Kelly throughout his career, 4.35 road ERA. On the road, he has been giving up right in that neighborhood about 1.3, 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. At home, closer to about 1.1 bombs per 9 innings and a 3.28 ERA. Meanwhile, for Nick Pivetta, just getting away from Boston was big for him, as it feels like Petco Park really fits what he is looking to do. You just take a look at his home and road splits here in 2025. When he has been at Petco, he has been rocking and rolling. 2.55 ERA. He's giving up less than 0.9 home runs per 9 innings at home. On the road, north of 1.4 bombs per 9 innings, a 4.09 ERA. And he is backed up by one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball. The Padres, number 3 in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, you do want to be cautious of Robert Suarez. He has blown 3 saves over the last 3 weeks. He has been really lighting it up with regards to the back half of these games, but You do have a lot of long relievers that have been very good for the team. Adrian Morejon, along with David Morgan, are both supplying a sub-250 ERA. Jason Adam has been tremendous. He continues to give you a sub-2 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada has been able to do a nice job holding down the fort as well. And that's been big because this is a San Diego Padres lineup that, just frankly, I was expecting a little bit more from. Trio guys, Gavin Sheets, Manny Machado, along Fernando Tatis Jr., all between 13 and 15 home runs thus far this season. And in the case of all three of these guys, give you at least a 260 average, and Machado and Tatis north of 350 on base. And you've got plenty of guys moving line. Luis Ariz, he's been picking it up recently. He's just below a 300 with regards to his average, but the entirety of the catcher spot, that last outfield spot with Brandon Lockridge, they tried out Jason Hayward, they had to DFA him. Guys like this just have not been able to give you a ton there. And on the flip side, it's a Arizona Diamondbacks team that does rank at the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They are currently without Corbin Carroll, but Eugenio Suarez has been able to give you 28 home runs. He's supplying a 320 on base. Geraldo Perdomo's give you a 370 on base. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, he's getting a home run every 12 at bats, nearly a 400 on base. Pavin Smith a 370 on base. Randall Grichuk has been a little bit down this year, but I think that he's going to pick it up as well. But the team is in the bottom 4 of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERAs. Shelby Miller has been really good for this team. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and outside of Shelby Miller, among guys that have seen at least 10 innings out of the bullpen, I don't think that you've got a single one that's got an ERA below 4. I mean, it's been Justin Martinez, Juan Murillo, Bryce Jarvis, all these guys just not giving you good innings whatsoever, and I do think that that's going to be costly in this ordeal, especially with Merrill Kelly just being less effective when he's on the road. Now, I did set my total at 7.6, very pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in San Diego. I think that Pavetta delivers a good start, so like the under and the pods on the money line. 959, 960 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start, and Taijuan Walker goes for the Phillies, and the Phillies do find themselves as a pretty moderate-sized underdog, plus 128 to a plus 136, in between minus 145 to a minus 155 is that number on San Francisco. 7.5 is the total, over is minus 120, and the under is even. And with San Francisco, I did set them as a minus 146 favorite. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, I'd be willing to go up to a plus 142 there. Right now, that initial run line that I'm seeing at FanDuel is a plus 132, so going to need to get a little bit more bang for my buck for Taijuan Walker. He honestly has not been bad in the role of a starter this far this season. Now, you do have to wonder how much length he's going to give you because he's been utilized these last few weeks as a bit more of a long reliever. He's made 8 starts and 19 total appearances this year. 364 ERA, is still giving up quite a few walks, 3.6 walks per 9 innings. Not necessarily doing an amazing job of getting strikeouts with about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but when Taijuan Walker has been in the role of a starter, he's actually been a little bit more effective than when he has been coming out of the bullpen. Coming out of the bullpen was posting up an ERA of a 371 compared to a 362 as a starter, and as a starter, he's given up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Robbie Ray, he has been pretty dominant for the San Francisco Giants team, a sub-275 ERA. He's still getting about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is down for his standards, but he's also lowered the walks and the home run rate, giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, 3.3 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has given up 3 home runs or fewer in pretty much all but 2 of his starts thus far this season, and he is backed up by a bullpen that's currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got so many guys like a Camilo Doval, Eric Miller, Randy Rodriguez, these guys that are able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Spencer Bivens has been a relatively good long guy. The big key for this team, picking it up on offense, as now you've got back in the fold Matt Chapman. He's been able to supply about a 360 on base thus far this season. Willie Adames has been a little bit better recently. He's up to 11 homers, hitting for about a 225, but still not getting what you paid for there. Wilmer Flores has been going down the toilet bowl a little bit, sitting about a 240 with 11 home runs. Mike Yastrzemski, about a 340 on base, and Eloy Ramos, 350 on base, 14 home runs. He's been the main concept for this team, but at the bottom of the lineup, these guys like Tyler Fitzgerald, Patrick Bailey, throw in there someone like a Luis Matos. These guys hitting a 230 or lower, that's an issue. And Rafael Devers, 355 on base since the team picked him up, but 2 home runs in his first 19 games. You just need a little bit more power there. And on the flip side for the Philadelphia Phillies, you do need a little bit more power out of this team. They're pretty pedestrian with regards to home run power, as Kyle Schwarber is carrying them. 27 home runs, 383 on base. Nobody else on the roster entered into Monday with north of 11 home runs. Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner, Max Kepler, all between 11 and 10 home runs this season. Now you are getting Bryce Harper back off the injured list, a 365 on base out of him, so that's pretty rock solid. But I mean, you just need a little bit more of something like a Yohan Juan Rojas is giving you 275 on base. Kepler has been pretty miserable in terms of finding way on as well, so it is a very interesting circumstance with this one. I did set the Giants at a minus 146 on the money line. Right now, we're finding this more in that neighborhood. About a minus 146 is the absolute lowest I'm seeing. When it's all said and done, probably going to be taking a little bit of a chalkier Giants money line in. Did set my total at a 7.6. Right now, seeing a lot of 8s populate on the board. Personally, I would rather take an 8 under rather than a 7.5 over, so looking at an 8 under and the Giants on the money line. 961, 962 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for the Tigers, and Ryan Pepiot goes for the Rays. The Rays are between plus 108 to plus 115 dogs, minus 127 to minus 132. That number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. And for the Tigers, I set them at a minus 122 on the money line, and it's a circumstance where if you're looking to lay a run half, I'd be willing to take a plus 163 or higher with regards to the Detroit Tigers. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener, you're going to be getting about a plus 168. That's where I'd be landing as of right now. Would like to see if we can get maybe that minus 120 money line, but I would be landing on the Tigers in some form or capacity. I do believe that Jack Flaherty is due for quite a bit of positivity, as his swing and miss stuff has still been very good thus far this season, getting just below 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and has been able to do a nice job on that front, but he's giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, 3.7 walks per 9 innings. That's why he's got a 4.84 ERA, despite the 4.32 fielding dependent. 3+ runs allowed in each of the last 4 starts for Captain Jack, so that has not necessarily been amazing, to say the least. And for Ryan Pepiot, it's been a case where he's been able to do a really good job of inducing soft contact. He's been giving about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now he has given up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings himself. He did give up a pair of bombs against the Athletics, but has been able to really reduce on the damage itself. Currently a 420 fielding dependent, so you do have to have your caution there, but this is a Tampa Bay Rays bullpen that you know that these guys are going to mix and match and do a relatively rock-solid job. Overall, just 14th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and the Detroit Tigers are 12th. I think that both of these teams are better than what the raw ERA would indicate. As for the Tigers, you've got the likes of Chase Lee, Branch Herter, Tommy Kahnle, Will Vest. I'll give you sub 325 ERA. And then for the Rays, Eric Orze, Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger, Kevin Kelly, I'll give you sub 350 ERA. So I do think that both of these teams are going to be rock solid with regards to their bullpens, but also have a pair of teams that are in the top 8 in the big leagues with regards to runs per game. For the Tampa Bay Rays, Junior Cam and Aaron Brandon Lau have been the catalyst for this team. A combined 40 home runs, both of these guys hitting north of 255, and Yandy Diaz, last 40 days, hitting above a 335 on an absolute tear. 14 home runs this far this season. Now the bottom of the lineup is leaving something to be desired. Cameron Misner, Taylor Walls, the entirety catcher spot, hitting at 215 or lower. That's less than savory, but Chandler Simpson, 24 stolen bags, a 302 average. Jose Cabrera is only hitting at 230, but at 327 on base, 31 stolen bases out of him. So these guys have been very solid there. And then on the flip side, you got a bunch in the Detroit Tigers that they're really not looking to swipe a lot of bags right now, but you do have a trio of guys that would be able to give you at least 16 home runs this far this season. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, and Spencer Torkelson. Now Carpenter is currently on the injured list, so that hurts the team quite a bit, but that said, you still have plenty of guys who are able to find a way to get on base, move the line, as you've been able to get that out of Zach McKinstry, Gleyber Torres, and Javi Baez, owing between about a 275 to a 285. You've been able to have Wencio Perez come off the injured list, 7 home runs in his first 115 at-bats, hitting about a 260. Dylan Dingler hitting about a 260. Cole Keith about a 340 on base. And for the Detroit Tigers, I do think that they're going to be able to get a better start out of Jack Flaherty here. If I can get that minus 122 money line, we'll be looking there, but seeing that initial run line, we'll be landing on that front, as I do think that you get a little bit of a higher scoring game. So I tell it at 8.7, so here at the 8.5, I like the over. 963, 964 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the New York Yankees. Will Warren is on the bump for the Yankees, and Logan Gilbert is on the bump for Seattle. And Seattle is a underdog of anywhere between plus 104 to a plus 112. Meanwhile, minus 120 to minus 126. That number on the Yankees, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. I did set the Yankees at a minus 114 on the money line. If we can get a few cents better on the Seattle Mariners, which I think we might when it's all said and done, we'll be landing on Logan Gilbert and company on the money line. For Logan Gilbert, this guy has been an absolute strikeout artist thus far this season. A 3.40 ERA, but his strikeouts per 9 rate is 13.2. He's giving up just 2 walks per 9 innings, albeit he's given up the deep ball. He has allowed 1.4 home runs per 9 innings thus far this season, and coming off the injury list in his 4 starts. He has given up 4+ runs in 2 of those starts, so that is a little bit of an issue. And for the New York Yankees, their struggles have not necessarily been because of the offense. Going into the day on Monday, they had been able to score at least 5 runs in, I believe, each of their last 6 games. So they've been able to pick it up there. Aaron Judge, all rise for the fact that he's got 33 home runs and a 470 on base. And then you've got Cody Bellinger, Ben Rice, Jazz Chisholm, Austin Wells, all these guys between about 13 to 15 home runs. Sean Grisham throwing in their 16 bombs. Now, you do have a few guys like Wells, Anthony Volpe that just need to move the line a little bit more. And Paul Goldschmidt, since the beginning of the month of June, has been posting up less than a 280 on base. He has been pretty miserable for this team, but that said, this is an offense that has been able to find it. The bullpen has been an issue, though. Luke Weaver has not looked like himself since coming off the injury list. At this point, Yuri De Los Santos has been your most reliable reliever. He and Tim Miller both give you a sub-250 ERA. Fernando Cruz lining on the injury list. That's been a little bit of an issue. Jonathan Loaiza, Ian Hamilton are both rocking north of a 3.6 ERA, so that's a bit of an issue. And for the Seattle Mariners, even though this team is just slightly above average with regards to their bullpen ERA, the top guys have been incredibly good, as you've got Matt Brash along with Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, all give you a sub-3 ERA. Even someone like a Carlos Vargas has been pretty solid in this bullpen as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, you got big dumper Cal Raleigh, currently on pace to set an American League record for home runs in a season with 35 thus far this season, 380 on base. J.P. Crawford, 385 on base. They do DFA Rowdy Tellez, which is a bit of an issue, but I mean, Randy Arozarena, 14 home runs, 355 on base. Julio Rodriguez, 11 home runs. He's been starting to rise up a little bit more as well. And for the Seattle Mariners team, they're averaging over 5 runs per game away from home thus far this season, so very formidable. They're going up against a guy, Will Warren, that if you look at the fielding independent and the advanced numbers, there's a lot of positivity that is doing from. He is right now posting up a pretty miserable ERA at a 5.02, but I mean, he's getting strikeouts. He's getting about 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 4.2 walks per 9 innings, bit of an issue, but it's not even like he's giving up the deep ball. 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but I mean, there are just times where he just gets completely shelled, so it's a very interesting circumstance here. I did set my total at an 8.7, so looking at that 8.5, I like the over. And with regards to the Seattle Mariners, it's a circumstance where if I could get them at a plus 114 or better, looking at them on the money line. 965, 966 on the card. The Chicago White Sox play us the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett as you look line and sinker for the Jays. Aaron Zavalli goes for the White Sox. White Sox underdogs of between plus 144 to a plus 154, minus 165 to minus 178. That number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total, over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for the Southsiders, I did set them as a underdog of a plus 159. So, I mean, seeing this number, I would need at least a plus 160 to be able to fire in there. And if you're looking to lay a run half, by the way, with the Blue Jays right now, that FanDuel opener has that at about a minus 110. I would need to be getting a plus number. As a matter of fact, if we got down to like a minus 103 on getting a run half with the Chicago White Sox, I'd be a little bit more inclined to look there. So, when it's all said and done, I might actually be landing on the White Sox in some form or capacity, as for Chris Bassett, he had a really nice start to the season, but ever since that nice start to the season, things have just completely ballooned out of control out of him, as he is currently rocking a 4.32 ERA, has given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 2 starts, and he's given up 11 total runs in his last 2 starts, albeit many of those were unearned against the Boston Red Sox. 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.5 walks, 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, so closer to 369, very nice fielding dependent, but you do have on the flip side a guy in Aaron Zavalli who he seems to be running in a form a little bit more. Forces his way out of Milwaukee, obviously, but I mean, he's been able to do a nice job holding it down with giving up 2 runs or fewer, and now 4 out of his last 6 starts. For Zavalli, overall for the season, a 4.60 ERA, but fielding dependent, even though that's a 5.18 when he's been with the Chicago White Sox, giving up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. He has been able to do a nice job of just being able to keep things out in front of him a little bit more. He's been rounding into form a little bit better in terms of just being able to give you 5 solid innings this season. Went 5+ in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Does get to go up against the Toronto Blue Jays team that has been very different with their offense when they've been away from home. At home, they're averaging 5.3 runs per game. That is number 1 in the American League. 3.7 runs per game away from home, and for this Blue Jays team, much of it comes back to the fact that they are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, albeit it's getting much better. George Springer has been able to give you 16 home runs this season. He's supplying about a 375 on base. Vlad Guerrero Jr., 380 on base, 12 home runs out of he, along with Bo Bichette. Edison Barger is up to about 11 home runs. He's been able to hit about a 270, and Ernie Clement, don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk. Both of these guys hitting in that neighborhood about 300. They've had no Anthony Santander, and that's been no problem at all. And for the Blue Jays, this has been an upper half of the big leagues team with regards to their bullpen ERA, hovering right around about 10th. And you've had Uriel Rodriguez serve as a really good long guy for this team. He's right now give you a sub-3 ERA. He's able to give you multiple innings. Additionally, you've had the Killer Bees and Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, both be able to give you a sub-250 ERA as well. So doing a nice job mixing and matching there. Chad Green has been a little bit better recently, but he's been quite miserable for the team thus far this season. And Yimi Garcia being on the injured list, that's been a little bit rough for them as well. But this is a Chicago White Sox team that has been in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They are right there at the bottom of the big leagues in terms of their overall home run power as well. Andrew Benintendi has been able to give you 10 home runs along with Miguel Vargas. Then you've had Luis Robert provide 8 home runs, but he's on the injured list, and it's not even like Robert was give you too much offensively, as you've got so many guys on this team with Joshua Palacios, Vinny Capra, throw in there Josh Rojas, Nick Matone, a whole bunch of guys. They're just hitting at 210 or lower for this team. Michael A. Taylor hitting about a 222, so it's been a big issue for this unit. And for the White Sox, they're hovering right around about 20th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, but there's a little bit of positivity here. Dan Altavilla, Mike Vasil, who was being trotted out there as a starter with Jonathan Cannon coming back, he's back in the bullpen. Tyler Gilbert, these guys have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Steven Wilson has been able to do a rock solid job in the bullpen as well. So I do think that for Aaron Savali, he's going to be able to go out there, give you a relatively nice appearance there. And for Chris Bassett, even though things have went down the toilet bowl for him a little bit, I do think that he's going to be able to give you a relatively good start as well. If you look at the advanced numbers for Bassett, about a 369 fielding dependent, 9.2 strikeouts and 2.5 walks per 9 innings. So interesting ordeal here. I did set my total at an 8.4. Right now we're seeing this total coming in at an 8.5. I like the under, and with the White Sox at a plus 160 or higher, we'll be willing to take a shot on them on the money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Cleveland Guardians are on the road against the Houston Astros. Hunter Brown goes for the Astros, and Joey Cantillo is on the bump for Cleveland. Cleveland is a plus 168 to a plus 176 dog. Minus 190 to minus 208 is that number on Houston. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 130, and the over is plus 110. Starting to see some 7s pop up. The 7s have over juice of minus 115 to minus 120. Under is anywhere between even and minus 105. Right now, that initial run line price of the Houston Astros is a plus 106. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 103. I set their money line price at a minus 196, and with my total at a 7.3. Personally, I would look at a 7 over rather than a 7.5 under. I do believe that Hunter Brown is doing for a little bit of regression, just because if you take a look at the fielding independent numbers compared to the ERA, it's a bit higher. 182 ERA, fielding independent more around at 271. He's still been amazing. 11 strikeouts at 2.5 walks per 9 innings, a 5.66 allowed per 9 innings. That is the lowest mark in the American League, and this guy has just been on an absolute run and on an absolute mission for Mr. Hunter Brown. He has allowed more than 2 earned runs in 2 of his 17 starts thus far this season. Like, my goodness, it's been absolutely insane. But Joey Cantillo, I think, can very well give away quite a few runs in this one. He's right now posting up a 3.41 ERA, and the swing and miss stuff is very good with him. 11.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's wild. 1.4 home runs, 4.8 walks allowed per 9 innings, and he's not fully stretched out. In his first start against the Chicago Cubs, he gave up no runs, but he was only able to go 3 1/3 innings. So that's a little bit of an issue. And this is not the same Cleveland Guardians team that we saw last year dominate the league with the number 1 bullpen in the big leagues in terms of ERA. They're currently 15th in the big leagues with a 3.90 ERA. You've had Emmanuel Clase do a relatively solid job at the closer's role. He's now been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Now, blown save that we saw on Sunday wasn't necessarily on him. I blame Bo Naylor a little bit more there, but now you're getting Eric Sabrowski back off the injured list. He, Nick Enright, Kate Smith have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA, but Jacob Junis, Tim Herron, both right around about 3.90 ERA. Matt Festa has been giving you a 5 ERA. Hunter Gaddis is starting to go down the toilet bowl. And for the Cleveland Guardians, it is a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Very top-heavy team. Jose Ramirez, 14 home runs, 360 on base. Stephen Kwan, about a 360 on base at the leadoff spot, and then just don't have a lot outside that. Is you've got a whole cavalcade of different guys hitting at 220 or lower for this team. Kyle Manzardo, Nolan Jones, Daniel Schneeman, Brian Rocchio, Will Wilson, Bo Naylor, Lane Thomas when he's been out there, David Fry. I mean, man, you're getting nothing out of them. Jackenzie Noel was so miserable, they had to send him down to the minor league level. And for the Houston Astros, all of a sudden they're finding something on offense. Had a big series against the LA Dodgers. Jose Altuve up to 16 bombs. He's hitting about a 275. They are dealing with the injury to Jeremy Pena, but they haven't needed him. Isaac Paredes, 355 on base, 18 home runs. Yunier Diaz, along Christian Walker, 12 home runs apiece. Need to work on their on-base percentage, but Cam Smith up to about a 350 on base. And this is an Astros team that's currently in the top 6 in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. Got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader, Bennett Sosa, Steven Okert, Sean Dubin, who have all been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Do think that Hunter Brown dominates, gets the job done. Like I said, semi-total 7.3, so at a 7 or less. Like the over, and with the Astros, I like that run line. 969, 970 on the card. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road going up against the LA Angels. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos, and Nathan Eovaldi is on the bump for the Rangers. And the Rangers, who find themselves as a minus 120 to a minus 115 favorite, and between even money at a plus 105. That number on the Halos, and the total on this game is 8. Over and under both at minus 110. And for Soriano, I did set the Angels at a minus 105. If I'm able to get about an even money price or so with regards to this Halos bunch, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them. Now, for Jose Soriano, he's had some very striking home and road splits thus far this season, as he's been one of the best road pitchers in all baseball. As a matter of fact, on the road this season, he has allowed 0 home runs in 62 innings, 4 bombs given up in 42 innings at home. So he's still keeping things out in front of him. That ERA goes up to a 5.57 at home. Should be doing for some positivity, considering he's getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings when he's at home. So there's that aspect of things, that he does get to go up against a Walker Texas Rangers team that is currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of their overall run creation. And it's been a little bit better for some of these struggling guys like Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia and company, but man, you're still not getting a ton out of these guys. Both of these guys hitting a 237 or less. Josh Young, a 283 on base with 8 home runs. You're just expecting a little bit more there. Wyatt Langford is leading the way with 13 home runs this season, but Jake Berger, 10 home runs, a 260 on base. You're just expecting more out of these guys. And for Corey Seager, ever since he's come off the injury list, he just has not been great for this team. You take a look at him over the last 30 days, he's giving you about a 400 on base, but he's hitting a 244 with 5 home runs. So you're going to need to get a little bit more of something. Has rounded in form a tad bit more over the last 2 or so weeks, but I mean, it has been just a cavalcade of different guys just not producing for this offense. But the Texas Rangers bullpen, ever since May 1st, has been a top 3 team in terms of their bullpen ERA in the big leagues. So many of these guys, like a Hobie Milner, Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, the long guy, Jacob Latz, these guys have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Sean Armstrong, one of those guys as well. And for Nathan Eovaldi, overall this season, .75 ERA, giving up 4 home runs in north of 77 innings. This guy throughout his career, though, has not been the same since coming off the injury list. His 8 innings since coming off the injury list hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible. He's given up 3 runs in this time span, about 3 walks. So, I mean, the walk rate is starting to rise up just a little bit, but I do think that that's a little bit of an issue that you need to have in this one, along with the LA Angels being able to just absolutely hit bombs, as this team is in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Now, they're a bottom 2 team in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage at home as well. So, I mean, this is very much an all-or-nothing team. Taylor Ward has 20 home runs, but just a 305 on base. Logan O'Hoppe, 261 on base, 17 home runs. Joe Adell, setting fire to the rain with 19 home runs. He's actually up to a 325 on base. And Zach Neto, 13 home runs. He's hitting about a 265. That's been rock solid. But even Mike Trout, he's giving you 14 home runs. He's hitting about a 230. You need a little bit more there. And then it's been a miserable year for Luis Rengifo with a 270 on base. Jorge Soler, 285 on base with 9 home runs. And this is an Angels bullpen that, man, it's grody to say the least. You've been able to get some good innings out of Hunter Strickland and Jose Fermin. Both give you a sub 320 ERA. Small sample size, but Sam Bachman has been able to give you a little bit of something as well. Everyone else in this bullpen, at least a 369 ERA or higher. Hector Neris, Kenley Jansen, Brock Burke, Reed Detmers, Connor Brogdon, just all not getting the job done. So that makes things very intriguing. But that said, I do think that with Eovaldi, it needs to be noted that he just throughout the years has not been the same pitcher when he goes off of the injured list. And I do think that the Angels find a way to get the job done. Set them at a minus 105. I like them on the money line. Seeing this total where it is right now at an 8, I like the over. Semi-total at 8.3. 971, 972 on the card. The Baltimore Orioles play us the New York Mets. Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Mets, and you've got Brandon Young on the bump for Baltimore. Baltimore is a underdog of between plus 105 to a plus 112, and between minus 120 to minus 126. That number on the Metropolitans, and the all scheme is 9.5. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and made Holmes and the Mets a minus 134 favorite. I'm going to be looking at them on the money line with Clay Holmes. It has been a case where he's been, in my opinion, a little bit fortunate to have the strand rate that he has, but still, he's been able to do a really good job going out there and getting the job done. 299 ERA, Fielding dependent again, that's more in the neighborhood about a 437, as he's only getting about 3.8 walks and 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2 runs or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, going against a Baltimore Orioles team that just frankly has not been able to put bat to ball this far this season. They're averaging about 4.7 runs per game at home. That goes down to about 3.7 runs per game away from home, but it's not like this is some sort of team that's absolutely just mashing. I like what Ryan O'Hearn is bringing to the table, a north of 375 on base, 11 plus home runs. He got named to the All-Star team. Congratulations to him. But Cedric Mullins, even though he's got the 13 home runs, only hitting about a 215. At Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Anderson, both hitting north of 216, 10 to 11 home runs apiece out of these 2 guys. And Ramon Laureano, 275 average with 10 home runs. He's really picked it up, but Adley Rutschman is currently on the injured list. Colin Cowser, Jordan Westberg, they've come off the injured list. They haven't necessarily been able to give you a ton, albeit Westberg about 9 home runs at about 145 at-bats, but on the flip side, you do have a Mets team that's much more formidable at the plate. They play in a little bit of a pitcher-friendly ballpark, which does sort of dwarf their offensive numbers just a little bit. But for this Mets team, they've been averaging about 4.4 runs per game when they've been away from home. And you've got a quartet of different guys that have been able to give you at least 15 home runs this far this season. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, and Juan Soto. Soto up to 21 bombs, nearly a 395 on base, and then a 380 on base out of Pete Alonso. The bottom of the lineup has been rough for this team. You've got Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, along with Tyrone Taylor, hitting a 230 or lower with not necessarily a lot of power out of these 3 guys. So that's a little bit of an issue. They had to send Francisco Alvarez down to the minor leagues. But for the New York Mets, the long relief has been very good for this team, as you've got Oscar Barzobin who's starting to go down the toilet bowl a little bit, about a 375 ERA, but Jose Buto, a sub 250 ERA. They've had some nice finds with Chris Savinsky, Jose Castillo being able to give you a sub 250 ERA as well. Austin Warren in a small sample size has looked solid as well, and I just have absolutely no faith whatsoever here in Brandon Young. Brandon Young at the minor league level has looked pretty solid, but every single time the Baltimore Orioles have tried to give him a shot at the big league level, he has just pooped the bed. As for Brandon Young, right now he's had 4 starts. He's posting up a 7.02 ERA, feeling pennant more around a 4.83, as he's only given up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but the 6 walks per 9 innings is just an absolute killer, especially when you're backed up by a bullpen that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've been able to have Felix Bautista give you a sub 3 ERA, and I do like what you've been able to get out of Brian Baker out of this bullpen as well, but there's just too many mix and match guys that aren't necessarily doing a great job for this team. Cade Stout, Ynier Cano, Scott Blewett, all these guys with north of 4 ERA. Matt Bowman has been rough for them as well. I do think that in the end, the New York Mets find a way to get the job done. Set them at a minus 134, so I like their money line. Maybe my total 9.1 as well. I do think that Clay Holmes gives you a relatively solid start here, so I'm looking at that 9.5 under. 973, 974 on the card. The Colorado Rockies are on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Brian Bayo is on the bump for the Sox, and Kyle Freeland goes for the Colorado Rockies. 9 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110, and with Boston, they're between minus 220 to minus 240 favorites, and between plus 190 to plus 205 is that number on the Colorado Rockies. If you're looking to lay a run half in this ordeal, right now the Red Sox are a minus 110, and sign me up there. I was willing to go up to a minus 122 with Brian Bayo. Not necessarily my favorite pitcher. He's a little bit of a sinker ball guy, so he's going to pitch you a lot of contact. He's going to try to induce a lot of double play balls. 342 ERA compared to a 454 fielding dependent, as he's been giving up right around about 4 walks per 9 innings, 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's a little bit of an issue for the team, but he's keeping things out in front of him. 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 starts, and when it comes to this Boston Red Sox bullpen, they have been able to do a really good job of being able to back him up. You've got a top 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA. Garrett Woodlock is providing about a 365 on base. He's able to give you multiple innings. Aroldis Chapman has been absolutely amazing at the closer's role. They had to put Justin Slayton on the injured list, but Justin Wilson is continuing to give you a 350 ERA, and for the Boston Red Sox, we saw them open up an absolute can over the weekend on the Washington Nationals. So without Rafael Devers, they're starting to pick it up. Trevor Story has been able to give you 14 home runs. Weiler Abreu is wiling out 17 home runs. Story not necessarily the world's greatest on base, but Abreu both give you about a 255 or so average. It's been a little bit of a miserable season for Jarren Duran, but I mean, these mix and match guys, Rob Refsnyder, Rami Gonzalez, Abraham Toro, all hitting at least a 270. So Don Rafael is now hitting about a 260 as well. And for the Colorado Rockies, they entered in the day on Monday after getting 3 runs per game away from them, albeit they were much better in the month of June on the road, but still have to have your issues there. Hunter Goodman, double-figure amount of homers on the road. He's been very good, hitting about a 280. Therio Estrada doesn't give you a lot of power, but he's moving line. He's hitting north of 280 for this team, but likes of Michael DeGlia, Brenton Doyle, Ryan McMahon, hitting at 215 or lower. Not great. Tyler Freeman has been able to give you a bit of something. And for the Rockies, this is a bottom 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA, but you do have a few guys that have been able to show relatively well in this bullpen, as you've got Jake Bird, Victor Vodnik, back. Jimmy Herget, who've been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA. Juan Mejia has been able to give you about a 4 ERA as well. And then on the flip side, you do have yourself a bunch in the Boston Red Sox who I do think are just going to be able to get enough out of Brian Bayo. I do think that they get to Kyle Freeland a little bit here. A guy in Kyle Freeland who he's doing for some positivity. If you look at the fielding independent numbers for Freeland overall for the season, 5.49 ERA, fielding independent more around at 3.82 as he doesn't give up bombs. He's only giving up 1 home run and 2.2 walks per 9 innings. He just doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. About 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That leaves him very vulnerable, especially when he's at home, as that ERA goes down to about a 4.50 away from home. But do think that the Red Sox are starting to heat up with their bats. Semi-total 9.3. I like the over, and the Red Sox run line up to a minus 122. 975, 976 on the card. The Chicago Cubs are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for the Twins. Shota Imanaga is on the bump for the Cubs. Cubs are minus 136, minus 144 favorites, and between plus 118 to plus 126 is that number on Minnesota. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 125. The under is plus 105, and with Imanaga, I did set the Cubs at a minus 142, so I'm going to be siding with them on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run at, by the way, with the Chicago Cubs right now, we're seeing that FanDuel opener coming over at a plus 122. I'd be willing to take that plus 122 run line. I'll probably be looking at the run line when it's all said and done. Need to let the market materialize a little bit more, but my initial lean is on that run line. I will be on the Cubs in some form or capacity, and for Shota Imanaga, do have a little bit of issue with the fact that he's not getting a lot of swings and misses this season, and in his last start, he did get a little bit tattooed, giving up 3 runs against a relatively rough Cleveland Guardians lineup, but still 2.78 ERA. He's been giving up only about 2.5 walks per 9 innings. The 1.6 bombs per 9 innings is not necessarily amazing, but he has gone up against a Minnesota Twins team that it's not like they've been necessarily the mashers of the midway, to say the least, as for the Minnesota Twins, Byron Buxton is having himself an amazing season. 20 home runs, about a 3.35 on base, and then Trevor Larnach has been able to throw in their 12 home runs as well. Lone 2 guys on the roster north of 10 home runs. Harrison Bader, Cody Clemens both have 10 home runs, but Clemens is sitting at 212. You've had Royce Lewis be absolutely miserable when he's been out there on the field, and he's been injured all year. Matt Wallner is hitting at the Mendoza line of 200. Willie Castro is giving you about a 360 on base, and Brooks Lee has been able to about a 265. You've had Carlos Correa pick it up a little bit more, but still below a 300 on base. He's only been able to give you 7 home runs thus far this season, and for the Minnesota Twins, since May 1st, this has been a bottom 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that the top guys have been solid. Yohan Duran, Danny Kalum, Louis Varland, Brock and Roll Stewart. These guys have been able to give you a 2.70 ERA or better, but Simeon Woods Richardson, 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, a 4.41 ERA in the field independent. That very much matches up with that. Now, for Woods Richardson, he's looked quite a bit better recently, as he has given up 0 or 1 earned runs in now 3 out of his last 4 starts, but has been incredibly inconsistent, to say the least. And when Woods Richardson has been at home, that ERA does climb up to about a 4 when he's at home. He's giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, but I do feel like on the flip side for the Chicago Cubs, this is just a very formidable lineup that will not be denied. For the Chicago Cubs, they do rank in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Just so many guys are ripping the cover off the ball. C.A. Suzuki, along with Pete Crow Armstrong, have both been able to give you 22 plus home runs thus far this season. As a matter of fact, for Suzuki, 25 bombs thus far this season, and these are not solo shots because Kyle Tucker, 17 home runs, 387 on base. You've got Michael Busch being able to give you about a 380 on base. He's giving you 18 home runs, even though he doesn't hit for power. Nico Horner sitting about at 285. Carson Kelly's been able to give you a 370 on base. So 1 through 9, this is a very formidable lineup, and since May 1st, the Chicago Cubs own the best ERA in the big leagues by north of half a point. Now, I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression here. Like, you just take a look at these guys. Caleb Theobar, along Gavin Hollowell, Daniel Palencia, Ryan Brazier, Chris Flex, and Drew Pomeranz, all below a 2 ERA. Brad Keller's up to about 288. These guys are going to see a little bit of regression. Let's call it what it is, but that said, I do think that for the Cubs, they do find a way to slug the worry to victory and get the job done. Did so by total at 80.7, so here at the 8.5, I like the over, and with the Cubs, most likely going to be taking a shot on that run line. 977, 978 on the card. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on the road against the Kansas City Royals. Seth Lugo is on the bump for the Royals. Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. Pirates are between plus 118 to plus 127 dogs. Minus 135 to minus 145 is that number on the Royals. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120. The over is even. Seeing some 8s out there. On the 8, the over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. Did set my total at 8.3. Personally, I would rather have an 8.5 under rather than an 8 over, because you got a Kansas City Royals team that's averaging fewer than 3 runs per game at home, and you've got a Pirates team that's averaging fewer than 3 runs per game on the road. So these two offenses have been pretty darn bad, but you take a look at Mitch Mitch Keller throughout his career has really struggled when he's been on the road. On the road, 5 ERA with 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. That lifetime ERA at home is a 3.99 ERA with just over 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. I will say for Mitch Keller, he's been able to do a pretty rock solid job overall for the season. 3.64 ERA, but still less than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. I think that he's going to get got at some point, and this has been a Pirates bullpen that, to their credit, they've actually been pretty stellar recently. Top 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA ever since May 1st, as you've got a lot of guys that are rounding into form, as you've been able to get that out of the two former Dodgers and Caleb Ferguson, Dennis Santana, David Bednar, Braxton Ashcraft. These guys have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jay Shogurt has been pretty solid in this bullpen as well, but for the Pirates, it is July 7th as I record this. You're going to hear this on July 8th. They've got 3 guys on the roster with north of 4 home runs. Andrew McCutcheon, who's giving you a 340 on base. Brian Reynolds, who's hitting about a 230 with 10 home runs. And then 15 bombs out of Oneil Cruz. But with Cruz, he's a part of just a big, giant mismatch of different guys that are hitting below a 222 for this team. As you've got that out of Fee, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo. Like everyone they've been trying at the bottom lineup, giving you nothing. Like Tommy Pham is hitting at 237. That's considered good for this team. You've been able to get a bit of production out of Isaiah Canary-Falefa hitting at 275, but no power there. And for the Kansas City Royals, this has been a powerless team as well. For the Kansas City Royals, bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis at home, up to 3 guys with a double-digit amount of bombs. Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt Jr., and Vinny Pasquantino. But for Perez, 277 on base with 10 home runs. You need a bit more there. Pasquantino is now hitting at 270, and Bobby Witt Jr., 24 stolen bases, hitting at 290. For any other player, Sanders, that's pretty solid, but you expect a little bit more there. But only one other player giving you north of 4 home runs. Miguel Garcia has been very good, hitting at 300, 18 stolen bases, 8 home runs. You'll take that, but these guys at the bottom full, Kyle Isbell along with Drew Waters, it's not that they're terrible. They're hitting 245 with not a lot of power, though. You just need a little bit more there. And the young guys in Nick Lofton, Jack Caglione, John Rave, all in below the Mendoza time 200. That's been an issue, but you've got a Kansas City Royals team that's been very locked down with regards to their bullpen. Lucas Ursech, Carlos Aceves, both give you a sub 215 ERA. Now, they did have to land Daniel Lynch on the injured list, but Steven Cruz has been able to give you a sub 225 ERA. You've got a guy like a John Schreiber who's been able to give you a sub 350 in the bullpen, so these guys have been very rock solid. And for Seth Lugo, he has a fielding dependent that's more around a 4.16 compared to his ERA that is a 2.65 for the season, but at home has been where he's been at his best. Pitch to contact guy, about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 242 ERA at home, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. I do think that Lugo and company go out there, get the job done. Did set the Royals at a minus 173 on the money line. We'll take a chalkier money line because I don't trust in the Royals winning by multiple runs, so like that money line, and I do like the 8.5 under, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the Athletics. Jeffrey Springs is on the bump for the Athletics. DDA Fuentes is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. Braves are a relative pick 'em here, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 110, between minus 105 to minus 112 on the Athletics. 10 is the total, over is minus 120, and the under is even. Set my total at 10.6. Even if you get a 10.5, I'm going to be landing on the over. DDA Fuentes just should not be at the big league level right now. This guy made one AAA start, and he's a 20-year-old guy, so I do think that there's a lot of potential here with him, but I don't understand why they rush him up to the big league level. He's only been able to fill 4 innings a start in his 3 starts. He's giving up 2.3 bombs per 9 innings. His swing and miss stuff just is not there yet. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. This just made no sense whatsoever, and on the flip side, you've got a guy in Jeffrey Springs who has had a relatively rough run of things when he has been at home this far this season. Overall, a 4.07 ERA. He's only getting about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, way down from his career numbers. 1.5 home runs per 9 innings allowed. He's giving up about 3.4 walks per 9 innings, and as is the case with so many of these pitchers for the Athletics, Sacramento has been a little bit of a house of horrors for him. 4.73 ERA. He is giving up about 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, and this is an Athletics bullpen that, well, they are athletically challenged when they're at home, as this team is in the bottom 2 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had John Newcomb as a long guy be able to give you a sub 4 ERA. That's been good for this team, I guess, but he's like the only guy in this bullpen right now that is giving you that sub 4 ERA, other than perhaps Jack Perkins, but Jack Perkins has only made 3 appearances. Michael Kelly as well. We'll give Michael Kelly a little bit of credit, but Mason Miller has had a relatively rough season, looking a little bit better recently, but Hogan Harris, throwing their JT Ginn and Juice. These guys give you about a 420 to a 475 ERA. Elvis Alvarado, well, he's been leaving the building with giving up at north of a 480 ERA. And for the Athletics, solid lineup. Brent Rooker, 18 home runs, 350 on base. Tyler Soderstrom, after a really nice start to the season with the deep ball, not necessarily hitting as many anymore, 15 home runs, but still a 335 on base. Jacob Wilson continues to move the line. He's hitting at 335, and Lawrence Butler's up to 14 stolen bags. He's been able to give you about 11 home runs this season, so you do like that. And for the Atlanta Braves, this continues to be a bottom 10 team in terms of runs per game, but this is an Atlanta Braves team that they should be able to pick it up a little bit more moving forward. The top guys have been good. Matt Olson had that 33-game on-base streak. He's been able to give you a 367 on base. He's up to 17 home runs. Austin Riley, along with Marcell Ozuna, Sean Murphy, all between 11 and 13 home runs. Murphy not hitting for a lot of average, but the other catcher, Drake Baldwin, 10 home runs, hitting at 275. This has actually been a really good catcher spot for the team, but here are the albatrosses. Michael Harris at 235 on base. My goodness, you need more there. And Ozzie Albies sitting at 222 with 6 home runs. Need more there. And I mean, even Ronald Acuna Jr. with his 450 on base, 9 home runs in 40 games. That's not enough deodorant to be able to cover the stink of some of these other guys. And for the Atlanta Braves, this actually has been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA ever since May 1st. They get Dasbell Hernandez off the injured list. That's big as he, Dylan Lee, along with Pierce Johnson, have been able to give you sub-3 ERA. Raciel Iglesias has blown a lot of games this year. He's posting up an ERA that's just below 5, and it's been mix and match with regards to this bullpen. Año de los Santos has had his inconsistencies, and for DDA Fuentes, I do feel like he should be a slim underdog here. With the Braves, I set him at -109, so -108 or better. Looking at the Braves, and I like the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to our good friend Adam Rosenberg, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letter CM, name does not matter. So, per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm coming at you once again about. Thank you.